And back at the 2014 Missouri Track Cross Country Coaches Association banquet, awards banquet, Hall of Fame, and with Keith Harder, the Ladue, longtime Ladue coach. And Coach, what was it like seeing the video montage and hearing about yourself, and just what was your reaction to that, and then getting there on stage ready to speak?
I didn't think I would react the way I did. I didn't think that I would get that emotional. I'm not one that gets very emotional, and I think on my way up to the stage, I thought about Ron Jorgensen at the last minute.
Yeah.
And that's when I got choked up and I couldn't recover.
Sure.
Could not recover.
Yeah.
It's just so unbelievable that a guy like me would be put into the Hall of Fame with these people. I mean, and the people in the past, it's for anybody who's ever been in a field of anything, whatever it's sport or business or anything of that nature, to be considered one of the better people that have ever come through that is astounding.
Yeah.
And I would never consider myself in that vein, but they voted me in, and a lot of it's because of guys like Sean Burris, because of guys like Pat Sullivan, Nick Buckvar,
sure,
and those type coaches. But we've all had great talent. I mean, Ladue's been really good. When I was at Webster, I was at Normandy.
Okay.
Always good years, good teams. They would have been good if I wasn't there.
Right.
You know, I just happened to be the guy that was steering the ship and kept the rudder kind of keeping us straight, and that's kind of what my job was all those years.
Yeah. And among the many individual and state records and team state titles and team trophies, what not to single any of them out, but do any of them are you more proud of or more amazed that it happened than any of the others? Or
probably the biggest upset in my career from a winning standpoint was the year, and I want to say it was about 2008 or 9. I can't remember.
Is that when you guys jumped up from Class 3 to 4?
Well, no, this was just a race.
Oh, okay.
We were in Class 3 at the time. Berkeley was going to kill us in 4x8. I hate giving away the 4x8 to anybody.
Right.
And I had a young girl who was running 2:45. We were going to get a medal, but I wasn't sure. And I just remember she went 2:25.
Yeah. And
we upset Berkeley in 4x8, and we were shocked. They were shocked. Everybody was shocked. And that was in the video. That was the trophy that the plaque that I was kissing.
Yeah.
Was that 4x8 plaque. So that was huge. It's great to be able to say that you won a state title in 2 classes.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing. A lot of that was Sean's doing. I'll admit that. I mean, obviously, I get the credit because I'm the head coach, but Burris was the one that put those 4 girls in the 400 and came up with that plan to do that. And man, it was a phenomenal victory. Another year that I recall that was crazy was the year we scored 2 points and got second.
Right.
We scored in every event on the track.
Yeah.
Most of the field events. I mean, what more can you do?
Yeah.
You know. So
surely you got to take extra pride at being having such a well-rounded program and scoring points at all different events.
Yeah. Well, we've been lucky in the sense that I've had a lot of really good. I've had good throws coaches. Sean has been real good. He's a very good technician. Before Sean came along, I had Ron, who's a Hall of Famer. I've had Pat Sullivan on the staff. Those are Hall of Famers, but man, we've had a ton of coaches that are ridiculous, and I've got them now. I mean, it's amazing. I can't believe we keep coming up with these coaches.
Do you offer free driving lessons? Is that what you do to them?
Well, they already know how to drive, although they always make me drive on the way to state, so and make me do the parallel parking.
Oh, nice.
But it's a lot of it's a tribute to the fact of the hard work of the assistants, the knowledge of our assistants. One thing that I am proud of for Ladue is the tradition in this Hall of Fame of coaches from Ladue, between Phil Bruska, Jorgensen, myself now, and Pat Sullivan, who was with me on the Ladue staff there for a little while, although he didn't really make his mark there. He made it at Normandy. But man, that's a lot of it. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to crowd those guys.
Yeah, sure.
But good, you know, you got to go with it. I mean, you know, and that's part of my job as the leader.
And what would you say? You talked a lot about joy and had some. I think that's a lot of time forget is you're in the sport and you're trying to do great things and, you know, get your athletes ready to compete and then it's all about results and, you know, we had a good day or bad day but you really talked about joy and seeing athletes do well and being able to build relationships with other coaches. And
I get, you know, a phrase that you always hear is that, you know, money doesn't buy happiness. And the phrase that I would like to say is that winning doesn't buy happiness. There's other things that buy happiness. Although, I wouldn't mind having a lot of money. And it's nice to have a lot of wins.
Right.
You know, so it's easy for me to stand up here and say that that's not relevant or important.
Sure.
It's critical. I mean, it's critical for the lifeblood of your program. If you're not winning.
Right.
Beyond that, what really, once you've established yourself in that tone where you're a winning program, what really becomes, well, not once you do it, but alongside that becomes how important it is that these kids walk out of here, A, with a good experience, and B, able to draw on something that you have done for them or we have done for them to be able to make it through something. So many times in my life, I persevered because I played sports. I had great coaches. I came out of Jinx High School. Those people, I mean, winning is everything down there. But when I was at Jinx, we never talked about winning. That was never a part of it. And they win 13, 14 state titles a year. And that's something, the very first day we will say to the kids, our goal is to win the state title. And then after that, it's never brought up again. So the joy, the things that I said, and one thing that I wanted to say, I forgot to say, I left off was that my son Cameron is it was a joy to coach him, and he was my favorite athlete to coach of all time. So I got to get at least on the video.
Right. So he, there's usually coaches don't like to be pinned down on that, but you can clearly state that.
I mean, aside from him, it would be ridiculous to even come up with somebody. But I will say this. There was a girl that I coached that meant a lot because at the time she came along, I was struggling. And I was struggling myself as a coach. I mean, we were winning as a team, but individually I wasn't doing much. And her name was Molly Schlam. She came through back in '06, I think she graduated. And she scored in all 4 events at the state meet and her senior year. And she was critical in resurrecting my career. Put me back on track. I know I helped her a lot, but that's kind of what I'm talking about in the speech when I said they give you strength. And Molly, I owe a great debt to for that.
Well, tell me one last thing. What advice you'd have for a young coach to get the most out of coaching?
Well, I think obviously your work ethic is big. If you don't know what you're doing in an event, figure it out. Find out. Now with the internet, you can coach yourself on how to coach kids. Probably the biggest thing is kind of what I said earlier in the speech is don't get caught up in wins and losses so much as just getting better. Being a part of the process, take the good with the bad. The sun's going to come up the next day. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have people show up ineligible. You're going to have fights. You're going to have things happen. We all have it. And, you know, next man up in that case. Coach with what you have, be the best you can, and do what you can, but don't let wins and losses define you. As good as we've been at Ladue, last year I didn't have one kid qualify in the boys team for the sectional meet. And next year, hope we're better than that. And I think we will be, but it doesn't make me a bad coach. I made it into the Hall of Fame the year that I didn't get a kid into the sectional. So it's not about wins and losses. It's about longevity. It's about caring for the sport. It's about caring for those kids. And what's really important is that you are a role model for these guys, and they're watching you. They're watching, and you may never know. But the bottom line is they are, and you need to be there for them.
Any any kid that you're more proud of what they've done since graduating than what they did as an athlete? Any special stories?
I mean, there's a ton of these kids. I mean, coming out of Ladue, a lot of these kids are going to Ivy League schools and WashU. the one that's really taken off is Nick.
Yeah.
Nick was really coached by Burris. He was Sean's kind of kid. You know, he was really, but Nick was always a product of Ladue, and he always made a special effort to make me feel important as part of this coaching staff, which is not always the case. I was super happy with the fact that, you know, one of the things I was going to say was one of my greatest days was the day CBC won the 4x4. And not because I like CBC,
sure.
but because Nick is coaching them.
Yeah.
And so I would say Nick is probably the #1 person on that list. But we got surgeons. We have Olympian athletes that aren't necessarily track athletes. We have, I mean, we have people who are being very productive in society who, and some of these people I never thought that would happen.
Sure.
They matured, they grew up. You never know what track and field played a role with that. But yeah, those are big. Tim Levine's going to be a real good coach one day, and he's already great, and he's going to be even better once he settles in where he lands for good. I'm proud of, you know, looking over and seeing Montenay and Sam do what they do.
Sure.
And, you know, I'll be real honest with you. I think Sean Burris, although he wasn't an athlete, I saw the evolution of Sean.
Yeah.
I saw him come in as a young coach who knew some track, but he evolved into maybe one of the best track coaches that I know.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that he has not taken that on to the world level because he's pretty good. And the other person I do want to shoot a shout out was Pat Sullivan, Pat was the person who got me in the track, gave me the bug, and he was the one who taught me about the 800.
Yeah. Well, congrats on the great honor, and we'll let you go with that. And I sure appreciate the time and some good advice and some good stories. So I appreciate it. All right, thanks.